It's time, Vegas baby. After months of speculation, Formula One's rolled the dice and decided to race in Vegas again. The city that never sleeps, the penultimate race of the season, and quite possibly the coldest of the year. And how will that affect the Grand Prix? We'll tell you in a minute. It's also the 1100th Grand Prix and the first time F1 returns to Vegas since 1982. That was when Keke Rosberg sealed the deal and got the title from Didier Pironi and John Watson. His first and only title. Williams' second Drivers' Championship, actually, at the time. Wow, so much has changed and so much is the same. So many unknowns as well going into Vegas. I'm Martyn Lee from the Autosport podcast, and joining me to discuss Vegas this weekend, Matt Q and Sam Hall. Gentlemen, welcome. I hate to talk tyres, but I love to talk tyres because that's going to be the big variable this weekend. It's going to be so cold. Look, I'm not talking snow in Barcelona testing cold, but very chilly, minus 10 degrees Celsius, all to do with when the cars hit the track in various sessions. Matt, you've spoken to Pirelli earlier today. What can you tell us about how Formula One goes racing in Vegas? It's an evening race. It's a night race on Saturday night. What's it going to be like?
Very cold is the short answer. I'll try not to go off a tangent, but obviously, yeah, it is a night race. So it's 10 o'clock for residents, 6 o'clock start in the morning for UK residents. So you can ask who the schedule is for, but as long as you get all those neon lights in the sphere looking back pretty in the back of TV shots, it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, like you say, cold. We're going to Vegas, which in November. It's a desert, obviously very warm in the summer and very cold in the winter. So temperatures could drop sort of below 10 degrees Celsius is the best guess at the minute, sort of a few days out from the race. And like you say, yeah, we have had winter testing. Think of all those drizzly filming days you get when cars are launches and you see Hamilton at the Silverstone International Circuit with an Arsene Wenger-style puffer coat. So we have had those temperatures before, but usually not for competitive sessions. And what you have, say Barcelona, when you have that, you have a medium speed track. So lots of sweeping corners to generate tyre temperature and very abrasive racetrack spec asphalt, whereas here it's got to be slightly biased towards road cars, and it's a new track surface as well, so it's going to be oozing all that oil. It's going to be very slippery, and the track layout that many have likened to sort of being a rotisserie pig, swirling around upside down with its trotters together. It's very long straights and then very sort of fiddly low speed sections. So you're going to have driving at 200 miles an hour, the wind speed, Baltic wind speed, chilling the surface temperature of the tyres, but inside where the tyres are turning at 200 miles an hour, they can be very hot. And then they're going to get to a braking zone with absolutely no temperature, big lockup, and then skate across this asphalt, and they're going to rip up and grain and tear. And then, that could be one safety car, then the tyres will cool even more, going even slower, another safety car, and so on and so on. So I think when F1 and everyone on the payroll has built up this as the greatest spectacle ever, which we've not seen yet, we have a season where Red Bull have dominated everything. So maybe you're looking towards that kind of chaos from the tyres because, as Oscar Wilde said, there's only one thing worse than being talked about. So almost any kind of publicity is good publicity, even if it's a bit chaotic. And the tyres are doing, that very cold race in Baku where they were letting go like that on the main straight for Verstappen.
Yeah, Sam, let me ask your opinion if the racing even matters this weekend. It does for me. I've been to Vegas twice. I love the place. My American friends are like, really? You love Vegas? And I say, well, yeah, sure. If you take it for what it is, it's like party town. You fly in, you fly out, you have a good time and don't take it too seriously. Like playgrounds for adults. But that's how I see Vegas. It's certainly something that when I think about Formula One, and I probably veer on the side a little bit more of looking at lap times and wanting to get a little bit nerdy about the sport. But whether you like that side of it or whether you're coming through the Netflix effect and you like the glamour and the glitz and that side of Formula One, doesn't matter what kind of Formula One fan you are, everybody's welcome. But let me ask you, Sam, what kind of race do you think Vegas will give Formula One?
Vegas will be, and I mean, the comparisons are going to be drawn. I think they've probably already been drawn. It is almost the new Monaco, isn't it? Everything seems to be the new Monaco. It's where all the celebs are going to be. It's sort of who's looking forward to Martin's grid walk this weekend. Hands up, yes. For me, the racing always matters, but this is pure spectacle. I don't think the track is great for racing, having driven it many, many times on the game already. But it's all about pure spectacle. They want those shots of the cars going down the strip. I mean, how good is that going to look? Formula One cars in Las Vegas on the strip. I fully anticipate, as Matt was alluding to, big problems with tyres. I fully anticipate safety cars early on. If we don't have a safety car after lap 1, I'll be frankly amazed. Although I think they will then leave it so that the safety car is called after they've gone down the strip and we've got those pictures. It's pure spectacle this weekend. That's all it's for. It's not for the racing at all. Although it could be one of the most unpredictable races of the season. I don't even think you can go into this weekend saying, yes, it's going to be a max win like we have for, call it 99% of the weekend so far.
Yeah, so many unknowns. Matt, let me ask you about where you think Vegas sits in terms of the Formula One calendar. Now, F1's been expanding over the years into new places, new territories, and this time Formula One has said, right, we're going to be the promoters ourselves. That's a different business model for Formula One to take. But much like when it goes to places like Miami, I guess it arrives in a busy, bustling city. We've talked so many times over the years about F1 going back to somewhere like New York. Well, here we go. This is a very busy, working city where there's loads of people in town who don't care about Formula One and loads of people who do. As F1 tries to reach new audiences and do new things, do you think Vegas hits the right mark for you?
Yeah, I suppose so. I was trying to think of, because we know the obvious next target is like a race at Kyalami in South Africa. I was thinking, where else do you go that really puts, makes that F1 blip on the radar that much bigger? Well, the reception to a Chinese race internally, not that great. Reception to a Chinese driver, well, the rumours were that Zhou didn't have a big enough financial package while the contract talks were delayed. So how much of an interest is there? And you're just sort of looking where else would make as big a splash as Vegas. And yeah, it's everyone's talking about it for good or for worse. You've seen residents annoyed that landmarks and cut-throughs to work have been blocked, that fountains have been drained, mature trees felled, and those like plastic films put on the walkways and bridges, which they've been peeling off. So, don't come to my city and obscure my view. But it's massive. F1 has smashed their own business model for this. Usually you get promoters paying $20-30 million for the sheer privilege of hosting F1. Well, this time around, they bought a 39-acre site for $240 million, constructed their own pit and paddock building. I think the contractors, they have to do their own promotion until 2032. So obviously we've got, 9 years of this race. And I suppose the idea after that then is to sell off the rights to someone else and keep it ticking over. Or it's such a lucrative success that F1 keeps it rolling over for itself. But it's absolutely massive. I mean, I don't want to be too much of a cynic and a pessimist, but this is it, right? This is a culmination of all the riches and popularity of Drive to Survive when there were lockdowns and everyone was sat on their sofa and had one thing to watch, and this was it. And it's now sustaining that hit. You've got people that are going to tune in for the race, and let's hope it's a good one, but otherwise it is, it's not even a Red Bull domination, it's a Max Verstappen domination. You have elements like Sam. I know you've just, been reviewing the Brawn documentary with Keanu Reeves, which is excellent. But again, it's the ripples have only gone so far. We've got the Brad Pitt film, but what comes after? What sustains a Netflix hit after that? And so that's why so much has been pinned on Vegas is this blockbuster race. You go back to when Liberty Media first took over, and okay, it was a different regime, not Chase Carey, but all about creating the 20 Super Bowls a year. Well, this might be the closest F1 gets to one actual Super Bowl where everyone talks about it. I'm sure there'll be people tuning in, setting their alarms ridiculously early just out of curiosity. So it is massive, but it's, and F1 will be told by F1, as you have been with the sprint races, that is an unqualified success in every measurable way, that all the numbers are up and everyone points to mission accomplished, whatever. But you just have to go and see how many naysayers there are, whether it's the locals. Sorry, again, Martin, you ask who this is for. Well, it's for fans who have a minimum of $500 to spend on a weekend ticket. The average ticket price for a grandstand goes up to, I think it's about $1,600, $500 more than Miami, which is already double that of Silverstone for a 3-day ticket, to put it into context. So you ask who it's for very rich fans as well. It's, but embrace change. It could be spectacular with that sphere in the background, a chaotic race. Yes, it will ruffle some feathers, but it'll be cool to see which celebrities are drawn out, the pulling power of F1, especially now the actors strike is sort of settled. F1's also got away with it with the casino and hotel workers strike in Vegas, which hours before the Friday deadline, they agreed a resolution with Wynn Resorts. There's 30,000 people that will be working this weekend for the biggest event in Vegas of the year that last week they were going to be downing tools for. So perhaps you look at it that way and say it is all coming together. The fact that hotel prices are down suggests there isn't enough demand, but now you look and it's only like the hospitality tickets which haven't sold out. But then what I'm hearing is that teams lower down the grid who have put together these super expensive mega hospitality package, they can't sell any of them. So it's just basically you need to see how it transpires on the day. I know that's really lame, but you're hearing so many conflicting things that, well, let's just see what actually happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Look, I think it's got a great place on the Formula One calendar, and I say that, and we haven't even seen a wheel turn yet. But as long as we can still get weekend general admission tickets to wander around Spa, and I suppose there's room on the calendar for everything from that to very expensive hospitality tickets in the likes of Vegas. Now, let's talk a little bit about, motor racing this weekend and what could happen from the things that we know. One thing you can say is this throws everything up in the air, a bit like when Bernie Ecclestone wanted to spray the tracks with sprinklers to create artificial rain, just to create jeopardy and variables. That's exactly what we get this weekend, Sam, isn't it? Because it's not going to be the standard weekend where people have got loads of data on the track. And yes, they've been supplied data for their sims, but it's not the same as going back to a track they've been to for years and years and years. And we need to know, we can't wait to see how teams adjust. Anyone you're particularly keeping an eye on this weekend?
To sort of paraphrase Stingray here, anything can happen in the next half hour. I've never thought I'd get that into one of these. But I'm excited for Ferrari and for Haas, if I'm honest. And I didn't think I'd be saying that this season. Because they are notoriously poor with tyre life. As Matt suggested, this could be a problem when you've got the super hot inner part of the tyre and the reasonably cold carcass. But I think these conditions are going to help them extend their tyre life and perhaps do something that they might not ordinarily be able to do. In the case of Haas, that's probably score a point or two, and Ferrari maybe podiums. But the problem here is, especially with Haas, that they've split their cars. One is running the old aero package and one is running the new aero package because Magnussen and Hulkenberg can't agree on which one is best. So essentially, we've got nothing to lose. We'll give you which one you prefer. But you can't look... I know earlier I said sort of it's not a foregone conclusion that Max will win it. And I don't think it is. But if you're a gambling man and this is the appropriate race to be suggesting that, be gamble aware and all that lot, you couldn't look beyond Max. You would only back Max to win it, wouldn't you? Sergio Perez, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. He needs a good result, and this would all but secure him P2 in the championship. He's famously good with tyre life, so could this be the weekend that he goes, Max, I'm back. I've got a win to my name. It could be. This could be the ideal weekend for Checo.
Yeah, it could be a good weekend for Checo, couldn't it? He's got that reputation of looking after the tyres, but he's also has a teammate who is so good at getting his head around the tyres as well. Now, and I know what you mean about the comparisons between the Baku track and Vegas, that long straight, some fiddly bits as well. I think you can draw a couple of lines between those two tracks. Let's talk drivers. Matt, let's talk drivers. Last time out, we saw a masterclass from the old master, Alonso, in Brazil, holding off Sergio Perez for all those laps for a podium. You and I have talked sometimes this year about the difference between the likes of Norris and Piastri, and how sometimes Piastri can be right up there and sometimes not. And you always point out to me, yep, he's still a rookie this year. There's tracks that he hasn't actually raced at apart from being in the sim. I guess this weekend all the drivers are rookies. What can we expect from certain ones to shine?
Obviously, none of them have been there before properly, apart from a couple of demo runs. And Pirelli and the teams and F1 have all been really working together because their data for this race is nowhere near the usual high standard where they sort of prep a perfect simulation. Because as I said, it's a new asphalt that no one have ever been to before. They don't know the quality, so they're really poor on data. So the Pirelli have sort of given some stuff for the F1 teams to work with, and they flagged certain peculiarities back to Pirelli, who have then distributed it to the whole grid, because it's sort of in no one's interest for this to be a shambles. So it's quite open in that sense. So, in terms of the drivers that will stand out, obviously you are, maybe someone like Alonso, I don't know, who's experiencing, can get up to grips faster with a new track. But then does it go the other way, like a rookie like Piastri, who he isn't several Grand Prix poorer off in terms of mileage around this track to understand sort of best to do. But I know the comparison has been made with Baku for all sorts of reasons. The fact that tyres could cool 30 degrees in the straight with the wind chill. Well, I think talking the paddock is that you're almost bolting on your Monza package. So that's why, again, you look Ferrari to be strong. Mercedes, would they be devastatingly slow in a straight line? Will Williams, depending on which way the wind is blowing, and I mean that generally because their car is wind sensitive rather than a throwaway comment, will they be chasing points in that brilliant battle for 7th place? Or will they have the wrong wind, a crosswind or whatever, and then be right down in the middle of nowhere? But I'd sort of be latching on to that Monza spec, basically with some mega straight line stuff and a few fiddly corners, and you're looking at Ferrari to, because it obviously with cost cap and whatever and wind tunnel hours, you can't do a Monza spec package like you used to just for the sake of, pleasing your home fans. But Ferrari did the modern day equivalent with the package they took to Italy this year, and so I'd expect that to have a second life this weekend, really. And so you'd hope they would be competitive. So we'll go on. Who did well at Monza? It was Carlos Sainz again out of the two, so maybe you'd put it towards him.
Yeah, I'd love to see Sainz do well this weekend. Let's finish off with a bit of news then, and it's all been happening with track limits since we last raced. And Sam, you've been looking after Autosport.com and the website with all of our colleagues. Why have track limits been rumbling on in Formula One news? Now, back in Austin, there were 76 laps deleted in just free practice one alone. And yet, what is this track limit story that keeps going on and on? Why is the FIA being called out by some for its inability to enforce track limits?
Well, this was by the actual stewards. I'll go back to the beginning. Haas actually appealed the result. I believe it was an appeal. It wasn't a protest. There's a difference because F1 and semantics, hand in hand. Haas basically said there were all of these track limits offences that were missed during the race, and they wanted the FIA to look at this. So they did, and over the course of a 2-day hearing, the FIA basically decided that there was nothing new. Matt will remind me of what the criteria are here. There was nothing new, relevant, and what was the third one?
Significant.
Significant, that's the one. There was no evidence that fitted all three criteria. So they said, well, the result stands. And this is kind of the latest in a run of teams really sort of superfluously testing the limits of what they can get away with this process. So the FIA is actually looking into this process and how they can make it better now to avoid things like this, which are, in all essence, a waste of time. I guess the one good thing to come out of it is that the stewards said they were unable to adequately do their job in policing track limits because the camera at turn 6 that was supposed to be able to help them, it was facing the wrong direction. So they couldn't actually effectively monitor track limits at turn 6 at the United States Grand Prix. So out of all of this, the FIA have now been told essentially by themselves, really, you've got to do better so that we can do our job and we don't go into this again with teams going, well, hang on, what about all these track limits offences? So track limits is just a never-ending discussion, but ultimately, if the stewards haven't got the ability to police it, then it doesn't help anyone. So I don't even expect by the beginning of next season this will all be sorted. I think we're looking midway through next season, the FIA will have to have found a complete way to police the limits, because it's a topic that really gets on my goat. To be honest, every other championship has track limits issues. In WEC, the drivers who can see a lot less of the track than in F1, they have no problems with track limits. But F1 drivers seem to, I don't know, if you step into an F1 car, you seem to lose all sense of where the limit is. So, Yeah, can we just end this topic and can it be done with? Can we just fix it and it be done with, please?
Well, I think Vegas answers that question for you. Can we be done with track limits? Yeah, in some parts of the track this weekend. If you go out, you go off and out of the race, and there'll be bits of carbon fibre on the track and safety cars perhaps galore. We don't know. Let's go and find out this weekend. A very different Vegas Grand Prix to what we've seen in the past, all those years ago in the early 80s. A decidedly brown affair, by which I mean lots of dead grass and stuff because it was blazing hot. And it was in a very different kind of environment in Vegas. This time it's going to be a night race. It's going to be cold. It's going to be the neon lights of Sin City. Who's going to gamble on a different strategy? And who's going to lay it all on the table and go all in? We are so close to finding out. And I'm so excited to watch the Grand Prix this weekend. Maybe not one for the record books in terms of pure all-out racing purity and all that kind of stuff, but what a spectacle. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Are you looking forward to it? Do you like Formula 1 going to places like this? Who could do well this weekend? Leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you've liked this video, well, you've got to the end of it, so I guess so. You know what to do. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.